If I had to go back and choose my path again, oh, I'd choose wrestling every time. Every time. Yeah, I loved it.
Turning a little bit chillier. Not in the rain.
My name is Chris Whaley, and I've been a pastor for 30 years. And before that, I was a professional wrestler from 1978 to 1988.
Yep. Seems to be his weak spot.
When I was a kid, I didn't get to participate in sports like a normal kid, you know, the baseball and football and all that kind of stuff. So wrestling is all I cared about, and it was something that I enjoyed doing, and plus, you know, I could make money while I was doing it, so it was a no-brainer for me. I was looking at the Tampa Tribune and saw wanted professional wrestlers, and I was in great shape at that time, and I took the paper over to my wife, and she was grading papers, and I said, "Honey, look at here," and she looked at the ad, and she read it. She was grading papers, and she looked at it, and she went, and just kept grading papers, you know, so, but she was supportive. It was kind of interesting because I would, you know, I'd come into church with black eyes and broke noses and bumps and bruises, and everybody said, "What happened to you?" And I said, "Well, I fell down." Which was the truth, you know. I fell down. I had a lot of help doing it, but I was wrestling. I wasn't hurting anybody, and I was helping my family, which is what I needed to do. I was at home. I was watching wrestling on TV, and a buddy of mine was working, and he worked under a hood or a mask, and the light went on, and that's when I said, "Hey, that's what I can do." So I changed my gimmick from working without a mask, and I started working under a mask, and I wrestled as the Saint. So I was wrestling a couple times a week, and the church didn't know it.
Yes, he was. I understand he supported himself and his family through seminary. He was in Fort Worth, Texas.
I was trained by the great Malenko. When I was growing up as a little boy, I saw this guy. Anybody that's been a wrestling fan for a long time will know who the great Malenko was. There used to be great matches between him and the perennial good guy in those days was Eddie Graham. But the great Malenko was like the baddest of the bad. He was a heel, he was a bad guy, but he was a great guy, and he taught several guys to wrestle. It was easier for me to be a wrestler.
Why do you say that?
I had a job, I knew what to do, I enjoyed doing it, and I got in and I did it. But being a pastor, it's the most stressful thing that I've ever done in my life. I didn't care about being a star. I just cared about getting in the ring and doing what I was doing and having a great time. Also, as a pastor, you got to get in the ring every week and preach every week. And if you preach a great sermon on Sunday, they're going to expect even greater the next week. So I never saw myself as a vigilante, but I saw myself as someone who stood up for what was right. I had a young lady who would come to the church. She was always the last one to come into the building, and then she would be the first one out. One Sunday, she came into the church wearing sunglasses. She came up to me and she took my hand with both of her hands, and she had her head down, and I could see tears coming down underneath the sunglasses. And so I reached over and took the sunglasses and lifted them up, and she had two black eyes. I told her, I said, "I'm gonna go visit your husband," and she was like, "Oh no, he'll hurt you." I said, "I'm really not worried about that." When I was in wrestling, I got to work all my stress out, you know, in the ring. When I became a pastor, all that stress was inside of me, just waiting to get out. And so I looked at it as a great opportunity of stress relief. So I went to his house. I said, "You know, I came to see how you would do against somebody who could fight back. Pretty easy thing to be a big guy and beat your wife. You know, I'm standing here, And if you feel like that, let's see how you do against somebody who can fight back. And he got real belligerent, and I'll call the police, I'll do this. And I said, go right ahead, man, they'll be on my side. So we had an altercation. The great thing is he never hit her again. The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is when good men do nothing. And so, that had a profound effect on me as a child. I'm not going to be one of those guys who stands around when evil is taking place. It used to really bother me when people would come to church and say, what does your church have to offer me? I would never do that. If I'm a Christian and I go to a church, I'm going to say, these are my gifts. How can I be used here at your church? My favorite passage in the Bible is from Jeremiah chapter 18 and verses 1 through 6, where God told the prophet Jeremiah to go to the potter's house and he would teach him a great lesson. And when he got to the potter's house, he saw him working on the wheel. And when he got through with the vessel that was on the wheel, when he got through with it, the scripture says that it was marred in the hand of the potter. And so he simply squished that same piece of clay back together again and put it back on the wheel, and he made it into a new vessel. And then he said to Jeremiah, he said, cannot I do with you as the potter has done with the clay? Or as the clay is in the hand of the potter, so are you in my hand, O house of Israel. So it's really a picture of my life. I'm representing God as a pastor. When we fight for what is right, God gives us unbelievable strength and things that normally we wouldn't have. And I'm so thankful for that.